The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Good morning and Assalamu Alaikum. You're tuned into Inspire FM 105.1 FM. It's Friday, 17th of March, and the time is now just gone 10 o'clock. Welcome to Mother's Planet, a show where there is always something to talk about in a productive and beneficial way. I'm your host, Neelum, and in today's show, I will be talking to you about parenting in a digital world. Now, listeners, the show is being aired today as a pre-record, so no messages will be responded to. So please keep those messages on the Facebook part of the show because we are live on the Facebook page. And so any comments or any questions that you have, you can actually leave and I will do my best to reply. You do have the option of sending in an email to info@inspirefm.org and you can just make it for the attention of Mother's Planet, inshallah, and I will respond as soon as possible. The show is still accessible via TuneIn through the Inspire FM webpage and as mentioned, an audio via Facebook. And we are also accessible via the Inspire FM app, which can be downloaded on your smartphones, which you hopefully have all done by now. And the show can also be heard from wherever you are in the world using this app. So in today's show, I'll be talking about parenting in a digital world. An important topic, which I feel many of us are worried about and really don't know how to train our children. So I think it's important that we train our children to use technology in an acceptable manner and most of all, enjoying it because this, as much of us are in denial about it, myself included, is actually the future. And it's the fastest growing aspect of our life at the moment, where technology is continuously improving lots of things, the way we shop, the way we eat, the way we order things, the way things get delivered, the way we search for things, the way we navigate to place one and place B. I think everyone's lost the usage of maps. I have to confess here, I don't think I can use an A to Z map at all now. I solely rely on technology in helping me get my way home. So we are using technology in lots of our in many aspects of our life, and things like AI, artificial intelligence, is looking like it's going to be the way forward. It's fast paced, and as I said, we are seeing high tech cars and computer games, and as a result, our kids are in some way almost being forced to become more tech savvy. And so in turn, we as parents need to keep up and make sure that we are equally as tech savvy. In fact, a step ahead, a few steps ahead. So, many schools across the UK have adopted to online learning and homework programs. So we need to make sure our children are not glued to these devices for both work and leisure. Post-lockdown, many companies have now seen that it's actually easy to have their employees working from home. It's more cost effective. Some employers have actually found that it's more cost effective for them. They're not having to pay for the petrol, the travel costs. So the benefits of working from home and being online is, it is the way forward for many people, and this is how people are working. So we need to show our children and be good role models in demonstrating the balance of work and leisure and not being stuck to our laptops or devices 24/7. And I think that's one of the downsides to probably working at home, where you will just get carried away. Whereas if you're in the office, you know that, okay, I need to leave by 5:30, otherwise I'm going to hit peak traffic, or I'm going to leave at 4 so I can sail through the traffic. So you've got times in your head where you have to switch off and not continue with your work. Whereas at home, you know that you'll just go downstairs and be able to grab yourself something to eat and join the family. There's no travel involved, so you'll push yourself that extra hour, and before you know it, it's 7, 8 o'clock and you're still working. So we need to find that balance, and we need to be good role models at drawing the line and saying, okay, this is my time and this is how much I'm going to spend on it, and end our time there. I will be sharing some healthy tips that I have used from Purple Mash. And Purple Mash has merged with a company called Too Simple, and also the NSPCC, who have also looked at ways in making the digital world a safer one for us all. So I have used the Purple Mash Too Simple quite a lot throughout this research. I've broken it down into 5 segments, which I feel is important to discuss today. Number 1 being a role model. Number 2, technology and safety. Number 3, digital footprint and online reputation. Number 4, content. And number 5, self-image and identity. Now, I will be going into detail about what each of those mean and what each of those are. So if you have just tuned in, listeners, you are tuned into the Mother's Planet this morning. I'm your host, Neelum, and I'll be talking about the parenting in a digital world today. And I'm going to be covering those 5 areas that I've just mentioned, and looking at how we can equip our children to be more safer and tech savvy in this digital world. But my first advice to all parents and myself would be to proof check all the apps and games your children have access to. Now, we've had emails from the schools to say that children are using devices and apps on their phones that are age inappropriate. And we need to have that conversation with our children about joining onto these apps and groups. We've had emails about games having access to the public, so anyone can join these games and partake in these games, so your children are playing with random strangers online. So we need to really be aware of these apps and games and the content of these games. You can now actually, and I think a lot of phones are doing it now, it's not just the smartphones. You can actually set them up where it does request the user's age. So if you enter that the child is 13 or 12 or 8, I'm hoping nobody, I totally disagree. My first point here is children over the age of 12, 13, where they are at high school having to walk home alone and you need to be in contact with them, they need phones. Before then, they don't need phones. So anyhow, you can enter their age. So I'm going to use the age 13 or 14 on there. And then what this does is this filters through appropriate content and ensures restricted things are off limits. So when they are accessing the big World Wide Web, if they put in something in their search engine or their YouTube search engine, it will be hopefully appropriate content that is visual to them and age appropriate as well. Some games are accessible to adults and children, so ensure that your games that your children are playing are not communicating with strangers. They're not giving away any personal information, anything about themselves. Just make them aware of this, and explain to them that this is unsafe territory, really. Restrict the times, and the time spent on technology is my next piece of advice. I think it's really important on some of these games and consoles, you can set up a parental control where your child can only play for a certain time, and you have the access to the passcode, so they don't know it, and they have to ask for it, or you have to come and enter that passcode if you feel they can have a few extra more minutes. Otherwise, they need to stop as soon as your parental alert has come up. So that's a good thing to do on technology, and I think that's a good way of restricting the time they spend on it as well, because it's not just what they're watching and what they're playing. It's also how much of the games and technology they're having access to. Even when it comes to working and studying, you should really free your eyes from the screen and let yourself be free a little bit there. Okay, so my first point was being a role model. Now, this is paramount because we are our role models to our children. So, how we behave, respond, react, everything will be mimicked by our children. And it's so important that we um, respond in appropriate ways. So children copy you. So if you show your screen time habits, how you are when you're working, what you do when you come away from your screen. Are you going to go and sit on your phone, or are you going to actually communicate with the family, have a conversation, or come down and have a fresh drink, maybe go for a walk? Show them that when you are away from the screen from your work, you're not going onto your phone or another piece of a device that's lying around. You are actually taking a break. And we need to let them understand that taking a time out from your behind your screen is actually literally that, where you're not going onto another screen. We need to share everything. I think it's understanding and having that openness and communication in the home, making sure that our children know that they can come and speak with us. And, likewise, we have that open communication with our children, and we are taking the time out to speak to them and understanding, anything that they feel. Oh, I accessed this, or this came up, or I wanted to ask this question, but this answer came up, or anything that they feel that's come up, or in their search, or if somebody's commented on something and they don't like the way it's being said. We have to have that open communication and explain to them that these things happen. Now, as adults, we all are part of some form of social media platform, whether it's for professional work, whether it's to keep in touch with friends that we went to school with. And we have to demonstrate this, that, we are accessing these sites, and we're not continuously bombarding it with our life. We're not posting our life. We're not living our life in the lens of social media. There's aspects of our life that should be private, and especially when it comes to places that you share with your children, outings, trips, day trips, holidays. I think these are all personal, and I don't think you should be posting everything on social media and letting people know that you are away from your home on holiday. This is private. We all know, if you're having your holiday, it's for yourself and your child or children or your family. It's for you. It's not something that needs to be celebrated by the world. And one thing I wanted to stress here, that a lot of parents post pictures of their children online, and this could be young children or even children that they have in their teens. And do you have their consent? Have you asked your child, is it okay that I post this on my social media network? There are going to be people that I don't speak to every day that are going to be exposed to this picture, and they may comment on it. Are you happy about that? Because this is their future. We are putting an image of our child out on the social media platform without their consent. And when they're older, they will see these images, and they may not want that. So it's very important that we have that open conversation, and we have their consent, and they understand what we are doing. And I think in doing so, it will probably make the adults think twice about putting the picture up. Is this really necessary? Do I really need to share this with the world? Do I really need to tell the world that my child's dressed like this for book day, or my child's like this, achieved this? I'm very wary myself about putting any images of my children up on any social media platforms. I do share images of my children on apps, family groups, family photos, but I know they're all private. I know they're all reserved. And again, it's something my children are aware of. So I think it's just very important that we demonstrate through good role modeling that we are actually being aware of what we're posting and why we're posting it. And the necessary. I mean, don't get me wrong, because the social media platforms is amazing. I've seen on there people posting, I found this bank card, I found this, I found that. Lost and found properties have been, you know I found a missing cat. All these things have been relocated to wherever they need to go. So social media platforms have been great for these kind of things, but just be wary about when it comes to sharing anything personal, and if you're going to be sharing anything regarding your child as well, if they are fully aware of them. And you need to establish some family rules, that all family members have to abide to, and that includes accessing the internet when they are away from home, and having these boundaries not just for the children when they're in the house, but when they're at school, when they've gone to college, when they're at university. I think if you have the foundations built from the very beginning and have the importance of why we are doing what we're doing, these things will be embedded in the children's heads. So when they are older, they will be able to make those wise decisions about how they access the internet and the digital world. So the next point was technology and safety. Now, a lot of safety apps are available which can control the access to what your children do online. And these ask for a password. So if a child sees something online and they want to download an app or a game, it will ask for a password, and that will only be accessible by the parent or the adult in the home. So these are one way of controlling the access to what children do online. These aren't always 100% reliable, though. So again, it's a case of having open communication, especially when it comes to passwords, because I've seen my children see me tap away at my screen and they all know my password on my screen. I've threatened to change it a few times, but sometimes, I say to them, I won't, because I trust you. I know that you know the password to my phone, but if I leave my phone downstairs and I'm upstairs, you're not going to go and grab mummy's phone and then play the next game on there without mummy's permission. So, um, it's having that open conversation, it's having that communication with them, it's allowing them to, this whole thing about trust is so, so important. So talk to your children about limiting where they are allowed to keep their devices. For example, should they leave their phones downstairs when doing their homework, or should they have it next to them because they might need to access some information? What can they do to do this? Now, I've always said to my children, when they come back from school, they put their phones downstairs on my sideboard, and that's where it stays, unless they have an after school club where they're going with their friends, and they need to meet up and they need to coincide how they're all meeting up and where they're going. If there's any of that happening, then yes, I will allow them to have access to the phone, but downstairs, not upstairs in their room chatting away and typing away and clicking away on their phones. They need to be present where we as adults can see them. So yes, keep the phones downstairs, and let them do their homework in peace. The dependency on our phones is becoming an increasingly worrying part of our lives, and we need to encourage our children to break free from this technology, um, and enjoy connecting to the world with themselves, be present, or pick up a book and read a book. If you have time, you don't need to be on your phones. And again, this comes back to being a good role model. If we can demonstrate this through when we move away from our laptop screens for when we are working from home and we go downstairs to have a break, we're not tapping away on our phones, because we are actually putting that aside and saying, nope, I've come down to mingle with people, talk to people, communicate with the world. I am not here to continue with any of my technical devices. Look at groups on social media platforms your children are part of. Are things appropriate? Are they connected with other people that are not their friends? Now, this is an important one, especially for those parents. I mean, this is a bit later on in the year, but those parents that are going to have children that are going to be starting high school this year in September. I know that when my son started and daughter, when they started high school, they were, exchanging numbers with friends that they'd met, and these friends were then creating WhatsApp groups, and they were all being part of a group. And there were some people that he was not aware of or friends with that were in this group, and things were being shared that were inappropriate, bad mouthing about other people. And then it was very quick that he realized that actually I don't know any of these people. I don't need to be in this group. So he has his own closed off private groups again. So does my daughter. And they have their own groups now, and they don't have connection with people that are not their immediate friends. And it's all safe. They talk about school, what they're going to do after school, what the work is, what they have to bring in, what kit they need to have, what equipment they need to bring in, what food they need to bring in for food tech, anything. So it's all communicating in an appropriate way. And it's educating them that, are they connected with people that they know and are friends with, rather than people that they don't know and they're on groups that they're not aware of. So listeners, if you have just tuned in, this is Mother's Planet. I'm your host Neelum, and we are talking about this morning parenting. Well, not we, I am talking about parenting in a digital world. I'm giving some tips around healthy tips around how to make the digital world a safe one for us all. This is our children and us. And I'm using 5 segments, which is being a role model, technology, and safety. So they're the 2 that I have covered so far about technology and safety. And being safe online is a really key, important thing about what you are sharing and what you are saying online, which then brings me over to digital footprints and online reputations. Now, this is absolutely important, because this is, as the name suggests, footprint, information that will always exist. Okay, so a digital footprint is information that is existence and on the internet about a particular person, and this will show their online activity, datas they've shared, things they've accessed, in some cases even things they've purchased, any photo uploads that have been accessible to the general public. So it can be quite an open world that you're allowing yourself to go into. So this is why it's very, very important that we mark our digital footprint appropriately, and we are doing things appropriately online, and our children are able to see this as well. So in a world that is ever reliant on technology, it's essential that you start working with your child from a very young age about digital footprint and getting them to understand this. And this is where I was saying that if you're part of groups where people are posting things and then you've commented, you've left a digital footprint. You've liked a post, you've left a digital footprint. These are all digital footprints. You've left something that you at the age of 13 or 14 have commented on, that if you were to go and access this in 10 years time, it will still be there. You've associated yourself with that particular post. So be mindful of what you're associating your name against, what you're agreeing, what you're liking, what you're commenting. Is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate? Should I say it? Should I not say it? Get them to really think before they actually make the comment, because this is the thing that's going to affect their future and their reputation. So if they have taken part or commented on something that's now no longer available or has been removed due to inappropriateness, their name would have been linked to it and they would have had left a digital footprint around it. So it's very important that we teach our children from a young age and understand, get them to understand the interaction with the digital world and how these are recorded. Um, by making them understand how this information is recorded, they're more likely to develop a careful approach and be a bit more wary about what they are putting online. Now, listeners, I'm conscious of the time because I think we are now entering near the break. So I'm going to finish off this comment around digital footprint, just making sure that you can understand this and you're demonstrating this well with your children. But for now, we are off on a short commercial break. Use this break for refilling your hot drink, cold drink, or whatever it is that you're having with me this morning. And join me after a short commercial break. Assalamu alaikum.
You're listening to an Inspire FM podcast, making available our popular programs from our daily broadcast on Inspire FM.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. You are tuned into Inspire FM 105.1 FM. Welcome back to Mother's Planet. It's Friday, 17th of March, and the time is now just gone 10:30. I'm your host, Neelum, and this morning I have been talking about parenting in a digital world. Now, so far I have mentioned the 2 points on being a good role model, technology and safety. So making sure that we are being safe online, accessing the correct things online and social media platforms as well, and also using technology at set limit times and not continuously moving from a laptop to then another device. We are actually being and using these devices appropriately. Now, I mentioned earlier about digital footprint and online reputations and how important it is that we educate our children in knowing that whatever they comment on will have an impact on their digital reputation. So it's very important that they think about this and do this with a more careful and approach. And I think by educating them, they will actually be a bit more mindful about what they're saying and how they're saying it as well. Now, one thing you could do is you could demo this with your own child, with your own name. Put your own name out there and see what information is held about yourself. And if there is anything that you are unhappy with, how this could have happened. Where your name is really. I think by putting your name out there and then it will show all the connections of where you are. So it'll be like a family tree, but not quite a family tree, but it would show where your connections are online. And I think it'd be quite interesting for children to see this, that what digital footprint is and understand it from a more visual perspective. So we have to train our children to ask for permission and always double check any interaction they have online. I have some statistics here, and this is done by UK Safer Internet Centre, and this result was shown in 2016. 73% of 8 to 12-year-olds have shared a photo online. I was so shocked when I saw that statistic, but 73% of 8 to 12-year-olds, that's, 8-year-olds showing photos of themselves online. Again, this is having an impact on their digital footprint. This is something that they are posting and other people are going to be commenting on, connecting on. Is this really appropriate? We need to remind our children, is this really appropriate? Now, bearing in mind that that statistic was taken in 2016, I dread to think what it's like now, and that was 73% then, post-pandemic, pre-pandemic. So post-pandemic, it'd be interesting to see where this statistic lies now. I think having lived half our life using internet and apps to communicate to the world, we are probably using it a lot more now. So children should understand that everything shared online has a bearing on their reputation. So whether it's a comment or a like or a post, this will affect their reputation, and they need to be careful about what they post, because as I mentioned earlier, if it's deemed as inappropriate content, your name will flag up in support of this content. So it's very, very important. So that brings me to my next point, which was content. As your child is fully immersed in the digital world, peer pressure will have a strong impact on your child, more now than ever. We see that children now, as I just read out that statistic, 73% of children are accessing online, and they are posting photos. I said photos and posting together there, photos and posting photos or images of themselves or something that they've done or achieved online, which again is accessible by all. So they may have your negative comments or dislikes on this image, and it may make them feel a bit negative and not wanted and not liked. So it's very important that we educate our children to think about the content they are putting online, help them by understanding the safety. Is this safe? Is this safe? Go through a set of questions with them. It's important to explain to your children any decisions, and think about what they're doing. Now, when it comes to us and we make the decision about you're not doing this online or you're not accessing that online, some of us just, and I'm guilty of this as a parent, I will always just say to my child, you can't access this, you're not doing that, and I leave things there. We can't just tell them, don't do this. It's very, very important that we explain our choices to our child and they see these decisions and the consequences of, if they did this, this could happen. And then they will understand that our decision was fair and justified. Long gone are those days now where parents could just say, don't do this, and we'd be like, yes, sir, no, sir. We now have to have a very open communication with our children, because if we are telling our children not to do something and not explaining it, somebody else may pick up those broken pieces and say to the child, you can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. And that broken, vulnerable child will want to listen to that person that's actually listening to their needs rather than looking out for their safety. So we don't want to make our children vulnerable. We don't want to make our children accessible to these people that are out there looking for vulnerable children. So we want to educate them, and we want to educate them by explaining our choices and being open to them, and letting them know the consequences. And that's the key thing here. They need to understand where we are coming from and why we are doing what we are doing. Discourage your children about using negative language when referring to others. Now, this is a really key, important thing again. So as well as your child probably being the other side of that, where they are receiving the negative language and negative comments, you need to make sure that your child is equally in the same boat of not being the one that's going to bully. Now, there's a really good book, and I'm not sure if Imrana has analysed this book or read this book with any of the kids on air, but it's called Jemima J, and it's about a young girl who went to school, and she was forever bullied at school for the way she looked, for the way she dressed. And so she came home and she accessed the digital world and created this person, which was so not what she was. It was a total opposite of her actual character, but it was somebody that she was able to be who she wasn't able to be in real life. And in doing so, she posted things, posted comments, and in actual fact, although she was being bullied at school, she was becoming the bully online. So when people were commenting on things that she did, she was inadvertently being the bully online. So it's an interesting read for anyone that wants to look out for that book. Jemima J is the name, and I've, for the life of me, can't remember the author, but there's a twist and a turn, and hopefully it does get better at the end. But it's a journey that she goes through, and it just shows that those children that receive these negative language and comments like this always tend to try and offload it somewhere else. So we need to make sure we are educating our children again to be not looking at inappropriate language. How would it make us feel? Asking those questions. And I think it's really important that we do bringing the onus back onto them, and we say to them, how would this make you feel? If somebody said this about you, how would you feel? Now, if they don't like the image or they don't agree with the comment, they don't have to be negative. We need to make them understand that it's okay to have an opinion as well, and it's okay to have um, a point of view, to say I don't agree with this or I don't like this, but to be negative and um, using harsh language or derogatory terms, it's important that we are showing them this. So explain to your children also about content, the ratings on games and movies that are put in place for a reason. So abiding by these are essential. Now, I know a lot of parents look at PG and age 12 and 18 films and think my child's a bit mature. I think they'll be able to handle this. There's some content there that I've looked through on age 12 movies, and I do question how this was a 12, because there's some things I find inappropriate. So, we need to just skim through this and just check that, although there's ratings there, some ratings may not be with the parent rating. So need to check that it's, what you feel comfortable and appropriate for your child, and you think your child can address and handle in an adult and mature manner. And this goes with reading. There's so many books out there that you just think, oh, that looks good. Let's just take that title and again, just take the book and get your child to read it. And actually, there's a lot of hidden terms in the book. So we've got to do a lot of work, parents. We've got to run through these films, skim through the books, but it's important because we want our children to access things that are appropriate for them. And I think here it's really important that we encourage our child to always share anything that is inappropriate. Now, as I said, we are humans. We won't have the time to go through all the books and skim through the books and skim through the movies to make sure that what our children are accessing is age appropriate. But if they feel something was or is inappropriate, they bring that up to you, and there's some transparency going on, and the children can explain that this actually made me feel a bit uncomfortable, but I didn't like this, or and you just have that open conversation. And I think it's really important that we allow our children sometimes to go through this, because it's quite easy as a parent to wrap your child up in cotton wool and hope that they have a soft landing. And we actually need to train them to be able to face some inappropriate content, and how they handle it and what they do with that is in a mature way. So, we need to support them in becoming informed and empowered users of the online world, and recognizing that potential risks, and then dealing with these in an appropriate way, and anything that's inappropriate and appropriate, and understanding the difference. So it's not about keeping everything blocked up and locked up and hidden away from them. It's about knowing that there's bad things that exist and there's not good stuff out there, but it's about how they handle it and what they do with that information. As a parent, it can be very traumatic when your child has seen something that's just mortifying, really awful, and it's trying to wipe that image or wipe that video clip from your child's head. But it's again a learning curve where you can say this is why, it's very important that you access things that are um, only needed to be accessed. It's very easy to sit there watching one video after another video after another video before something inappropriate comes up onto your screen and will traumatize you. So, that was a waste of time going through those videos. Your time is valuable. You could have done something much more better with your time than sitting there skipping through videos and waiting for we don't know what. So, it's better that you just put your device down, you don't access these things, and you communicate with the world, physically, where you are going out, and hopefully the weather's going to start getting better, kicking a ball around and talking to your friends, talking to your family members and everything like that. Now, I've come to my last point, which I wanted to spend some time talking about because it's all about self-image and identity. Now, for me, this is one of the most important aspects on the digital world we are facing. Many adults need acceptance or validation from their peers, family, friends on what they post. We're sitting there watching how many likes, how many uh, dislikes, who's positively commenting, what's people saying, and the validation of when you receive more than 5 likes, it's like, oh, I exist. People like me. I'm a bit popular. It's again, you know, um, a very fine line of uh, is this appropriate? Do we need to be validated by the outside world? Do we need to get approval of what makes us feel good? We ourselves are people that control this, and we know what makes us happy. We know what makes our children happy and how we are when we're around our children. So to post this, share this, put this out there, and then look for validation, it's damaging, and it's very damaging for mental well-being, mental health. um I mean, I have been guilty. In my younger days, I was very reliable on my Facebook posts that I put up, and I needed to know that everything was being read and understood and shared and liked. But I've grown older and wiser. And I know that these things don't dictate my life. And whether I post something or, oh, I didn't take a picture of where I went or what I had for breakfast and I didn't share it, it doesn't matter. I know what I had for breakfast. I ate it, I consumed it, I enjoyed it. I was in good company. I took in that moment. I didn't need to put that picture up. And as a result, now I'm actually quite rubbish at taking pictures when we have social gatherings, and I forget to take pictures of things. I think, oh, I didn't take a picture of the cake. Oh, I didn't take a picture of my outfit, and that's purely for my own portfolio, just for me to look back at and say, oh, I remember that day. But I do just forget now to take pictures because this is how meaningless this whole process has become to me. And I think it's just it's something that I don't need the world to verify or validate that oh yes, you look like you were having fun, or that looks nice, or that looks good. And what's happening is, as adults are doing this, as a result, many children are following these steps too, and now children are having to post things, needing that validation. And the statistics again here, 2 in 5 children have received negative comments on a photo they have posted. And they have said that, I think it was about 63% again, that said that it made them feel very negative for the day. And again, I didn't share this earlier on stats with you, but 81% of children from 8 to 11-year-old use YouTube. And this is by Ofcom in 2017, that result there. 81% of children have access to YouTube. And this is 8 to 11-year-olds. So 8 to 11-year-olds accessing YouTube. I think I only learned how to use YouTube probably about 10 years ago. And, even now, I do worry when I'm typing into the search engine of YouTube about what words I type and letters I put in, because anything that's misspelt, you have no idea about what's going to come up. And you've got children of age 8 to 11 that are accessing YouTube and posting things up that they're doing, they've seen. And it's quite concerning, again, you need to make children mindful about the safety aspect of this, the digital footprint they're leaving. Is this something that they're going to want to look back on in 10 years' time and say, what in God's earth was I thinking about when I posted that, when I uploaded that video, when I commented on that video? Make them very mindful about what they are doing today, because it will have repercussions in their future. And it depends where they want to go with their future, and how they want to be. If they want to be in professional roles, they need to be very savvy with the internet and make sure that they are keeping their nose clean, literally. So, it's very, very important that we make that part of the digital footprint very important to them. So, support your children in valuing their own opinions and their preferences, building their own self-value. Self-image and identity. This is such a key point here about making children value their own opinions and their preferences and building their own value. They don't need to be validated by other people. They need to know that having an opinion and having a preference is actually healthy. And we have this around the dinner table all the time. Sometimes it can get frustrating because a lot of the time my points are disagreed on, but it's an opinion. Everyone is entitled to one. And I have my opinion, and my child and my husband and my siblings, they all have their opinion on how I feel or express a concern. And this is healthy, and this is how things go in the world. If we all agreed with everything that was being said or done, then would be in a very boring world. So it's very important. Avoiding external influences that can damage a child's self-worth is difficult, yes. So it's important to continue nurturing your child's self-worth even as they grow older. So it's very important, and this is where the parents come in. We are validating our children. We are showing them that they are doing well. They are accepted. They are their own person, their own individual character, and we're not allowing them to rely on an external party or that Mr. Somebody or Mrs. Somebody that's waiting there to say, it's okay, I can make you feel better. I know what you can do. And that's it. Before you know it, your child is a vulnerable child and gone off in that horrible world. So it's very important that we are the person that's validating them and giving them that positivity. The repercussions of this is detrimental when children have received negative comments on a photo. Kids really struggle with building confidence. It's therefore essential that we train our children to understand the concept, as I said, of perspectives and opinions. And not everyone has to agree with what you do or say. We are entitled to our own opinions, even though others may agree or disagree. So our own opinion should be from our own head, and it's not on the reliance of others. What we feel, we should be free enough to say. But again, looking at content, is it appropriate? Are we being negative in any way? Can we word this a bit better? Again, going back to digital footprint, are we marking this in a way that's going to be appropriate and not taken the wrong way and not have any negative repercussions on anyone? If your child comes to you with a small problem, you deal with it sympathetically. They're more likely to confide in you if you have resolved the problem in a more empathetic way. It's so important that we as parents show this empathy to our children, and we show them that they can come to us and tell us everything and anything. I think I've mentioned this in many shows before, but a friend of my husband who has older children, and when my husband asked for advice about, how did you deal with it? How did you go through that whole difficult parenting time of the teens? And he said that the best advice I can offer you is when they come and tell you something, however mortifying and scary and upsetting it must be, you need to zip it. You need to control your tongue and not say anything to them, and let them offload and let them tell you. And then be mindful about what your next words are going to be, because anything that comes out slightly negative, or anything that comes out like you're telling them off, they will never come back to you again. So it's so important that we know that they can confide to us. And even though we've drilled in all this, be thinking, be thinking of your digital footprint, don't use inappropriate language, don't, do this, all the do's and the don'ts, even though we may have trained them all up using all of that, and they still come back and tell you that they've gone against that and this is what's happened. You need to be strong parents and come out with the sympathetic and empathetic role, and show them that this is good, this is healthy, and I'm glad that you've come to me and you've told me we can work on this and we can work things out and we can make things better. And I think it's just that, educating our children. So there is a slip that I have printed off, which is the jargon buster, and these are terms and words that have been used in the digital world, and the technical shorthand words used and I will have these posted up, but they have been taken from purplemash.com, and they are working in partnership with Too Simple, and this is where a lot of my content today has come from. So, and the statistics as well that I've shared as well, and I think the guidance that they have given is fantastic. The NSPCC also has some great information that you can access on there as well. Now, listeners, we have actually come to the end of my show, and I hope that my points have been of benefit, inshallah, and I pray that Allah gives us the knowledge to empower our children to become confident individuals and use the internet in a safe and appropriate manner, inshallah. Ameen. Now, my quote for the day is, we live in a digital world, but we are fairly analog creatures. Jummah Mubarak, wishing you all a blessed Friday. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We stream our daily broadcast on inspirefm.org. You'll find all our daily updates on our social media at InspireFM Luton.